Arson is the crime of willfully and deliberately setting fire to or charring property. Although the act of arson typically involves buildings, the term can also refer to the intentional burning of other things, such as motor vehicles, watercraft, or forests. The crime is typically classified as a felony, with instances involving a greater degree of risk to human life or property carrying a stricter penalty. Arson which results in death can be further prosecuted as manslaughter or murder. A common motive for arson is to commit insurance fraud. In such cases, a person destroys their own property by burning it and then lies about the cause in order to collect against their insurance policy. Many U.S. state legal systems and the legal systems of several other countries divide arson into degrees, depending sometimes on the value of the property but more commonly on its use and whether the crime was committed in the day or night. First-degree arson, burning an occupied structure such as a school or a place where people are normally present. Second-degree arson, burning an unoccupied building such as an empty barn or an unoccupied house or other structure in order to claim insurance on such property. Third-degree arson, burning an abandoned building or an abandoned area, such as a field, forest or woods. Many statutes vary the degree of the crime according to the criminal intent of the accused. Some U.S. states use other degrees of arson, such as fourth and fifth degree, while some states do not categorize arson by any degree. But how do forensic scientists investigate arson? While approaching a fire scene, first responders should observe and mentally note the following conditions and activities and initiate permanent documentation of the information: written notes, voice recordings, and videotapes. The presence, location and condition of victims and witnesses, vehicles leaving the scene, bystanders or unusual activities near the scene. Flame and smoke conditions such as the volume of flames and smoke, the color, height and location of the flames, the direction in which the flames and smoke are moving. Conditions of the structure like if the lights are turned on, fire through the roof, walls standing, open, closed, or broken windows and doors, as well as conditions surrounding the scene like blocked driveways, debris, damage to other structures. Unusual characteristics of the scene could be the presence of containers, exterior burning or charring on the building, the absence of normal contents, unusual odors, fire trailers, which are physical trails of fuel, and the burn patterns caused by those trails. However, first responders must be aware of incendiary or explosive devices. In some cases, the scene may contain devices specifically designed to kill or maim public safety responders. Do not touch any suspected incendiary or explosive device. Evacuate the area, and request the services of personnel trained in the removal of such items. Once the scene is labeled as arson and the area is deemed safe, forensic investigators begin to work with first responders to gather as much evidence as possible to help find who caused the fire. In many cases, the key determination by an investigator is identifying the fire's point of origin. Several factors must be taken into account in fixing the fire's point of origin: location of the apex of the V-shaped pattern, location of the lowest level of burn, point of deepest char, area of greatest damage, size of squares in alligatorized or checked wood, presence of small cracks in nearby glass, spalling of concrete, direction of light bulb distending, trails found on premises, and location of smoke deposits on walls. Once the fire's point of origin is identified, the investigator and laboratory analysts can isolate the fire's cause. After the lead investigator has evaluated the scene, he or she must document the scene. This entails taking physical notes, taking pictures of the scene, as well as taking videos. This allows the original state of the scene to be stored permanently in the case of any tampering or moving evidence around. Pictures and videos can also be used later in an investigation to scan for clues and evidence that the investigator may have missed on site. Prior to processing evidence, the steps in the investigation mainly deal with assessing and documenting the situation. In the processing stage, the investigator gets hands-on with the scene and physically begins to collect evidence. Within this process, the NIJ states that investigators should identify, collect and preserve evidence, prevent evidence contamination, package and transport evidence, and establish and maintain the chain of custody. Identifying, collecting, and preserving the evidence means that investigators have to physically sift through the scene and collect any materials that they deem relevant to the investigation. In the case of an arson, this may be any weapons, explosive devices, matches, or anything else that could give them insight regarding the origins of the fire. In the case of arson, the evidence could lead investigators to determine exactly how an individual started the fire. Preventing the contamination of evidence is important, especially in the case of a fire where evidence may be in a weakened state. Packaging and transporting evidence is the next step, which entails evidence being taken to a secure facility, where it can be analyzed in an environment free of contaminants. Establishing and maintaining the chain of custody involves making sure the evidence is tracked at all times and possession changes are documented. After proceeding with evidence processing, investigators must then complete the scene, which is the next step. After the scene has been secured, documented, and cleared of all relevant evidence, investigators are then tasked with taking the final steps in their on-site investigation. This includes releasing the scene and submitting reports to the appropriate database before they can release the scene. Investigators must ensure that they have collected all possible evidence, documented the scene accurately, and remove all materials used as part of the investigation. After the scene has been cleared and released, the final on-site task is recording scene information in various databases, such as Arson and Explosives National Repository. After the scene is fully cleared, the fire can then be fully investigated appropriately. Investigators then take evidence from the scene to a lab to run tests and comparisons, which hopefully allows them to reveal who may have started the fire and why. Forensic investigators do their best to track down possible suspects after examining things like fingerprints as well as physical evidence found at the scene. However, due to the destructive nature of fire, arson cases are extremely hard to solve. And sadly, as of today, only 15 to 20% of arson cases are solved. But hopefully, new advancements in the process will lift that percentage up. Laser scanners have revolutionized the way fire scenes are reconstructed. This powerful tool uses infrared technology to digitally record a scene and capture millions of data points within a matter of minutes. Data points can then be extracted to produce a 3D model, allowing the investigator and other parties to return to the scene even after the physical scene has been demolished. With modern technology, investigators can carry the capabilities of 3D modeling on their mobile phones. In the year 2020 we saw the introduction of LiDAR technology on certain models of iPhones, which allows the user to scan an area and produce a 3D model within apps. Measurements and other information can be taken from the 3D models and analyzed to support forensic fire scene investigations. Drone technology has also become an important tool in the fire investigation process. Viewing a fire scene from an aerial point of view also allows the investigator to analyze fire spread across the scene from a wide angle. New advancements in X-ray technology have also broadened forensic fire investigator capabilities. Portable X-ray devices like the ADX600 allow investigators to capture internal images of fire-damaged items like melted masses of plastic and find any points of failure not readily visible. X-ray systems enable investigators to non-destructively and repeatedly examine items without loss of evidence. These technological advancements in the field of portable sniffers have led to the development of battery-powered, handheld devices capable of detecting ignitable liquids and generating lab-quality data at fire scenes. Photoionization detectors and portable gas chromatograph mass spectrometers can detect and test residual traces of hundreds of gases and vapors. With sensitivity down to a few parts per billion, they are quick, simple and accurate methods for detecting volatile hydrocarbons at a fire scene. In comparison, the human nose has a threshold for petrol of around 1 part per million. One benefit of instrumentation use at fire scenes is that it vastly reduces the amount of evidence removed from the scene, limiting the possibility of cross-contamination and errors in chain of custody. Also, with the rapid processing capabilities of portable sniffer devices, results are generated quickly, allowing investigators to form a working hypothesis of cause. However, the results provided by these devices are not sufficient for court purposes, and all samples should be subject to a laboratory analysis to ensure the reliability of the results. Every fire and explosion scene presents its own unique challenges. The application of new technology in field investigations is not intended to overshadow traditional means of fire and explosion investigation. Rather, it is a means of supplementing the investigation process to reliably document, collect and preserve evidence. New technology can further enhance the level of certainty in forensic fire investigations, which is needed to support successful claims processes.